There are men who never say, "I love you," yet show it in 100 quiet ways. Men who struggle to confess what they feel, though their actions betray them. Why does this happen? Why can someone be deeply in love and not even realize it? To understand this, we must go beyond the surface, and that's where Carl Jung comes in. Jung taught that most of our emotional decisions don't arise from conscious thought, but from the unconscious. This deeper layer of the mind holds our traumas, desires, fears, and archetypes. It shapes our behaviors quietly, often without our awareness. When a man falls in love, he doesn't always recognize it, especially if he was raised to suppress emotion, to prize strength, and to avoid vulnerability. In such a world, the unconscious speaks first through gestures, silences, contradictions, or seemingly random acts that carry deeper meaning. So, how does hidden love reveal itself? Jung spoke of the anima, the feminine archetype that lives within the male unconscious. It is the intuitive, emotional, empathetic side of the self. When a man falls in love, his anima stirs. This inner presence reaches toward the woman he loves, even if his conscious mind hasn't caught up. And when that happens, something shifts. You'll see it in the small things, those quiet, telling moments that break his routine, that pull him off balance, that leave him exposed in ways he doesn't understand. He may feel uncomfortable, uncertain, even resistant, but something within him has already begun to speak. You don't need him to say it aloud. The body speaks. The soul shouts. Watch closely. The truth is always there, whispered in the space between his words. And all of it, every glance, every hesitation, every small contradiction, is for one reason. You are living in his emotional unconscious. In Jungian psychology, we project onto others what we lack, what draws us in, what touches our wounds or stirs our longing. A man in love, often without realizing it, projects onto a woman the very qualities he admires, idealizes, or quietly yearns to find within himself. He watches you, he listens, he follows your words, your movements, often without understanding why he cares so deeply. It's not rational. It's not logical. It's something far deeper. And sometimes what he feels frightens him. He may pull away, he may grow silent, confused, even contradictory. But if you learn to see the signs, you'll realize his soul has already reached out to you, even if his mind is still trying to hold back. Many men were raised to be strong, self-controlled, invulnerable, to never fall too hard, to never show too much. These messages become emotional filters, blocking the heart's natural flow. So love, in these cases, doesn't arrive as a confession. It emerges as an underground current, subtle but undeniable, expressed through involuntary actions and instinctive reactions. And this is where it gets interesting. Those small, unconscious gestures often speak louder than words, a message at an unexpected hour, a look that lingers just a little too long, a shared memory he brings up without prompting, a sudden urge to help you, protect you, even argue with you. All of it is love's secret language. Carl Jung once said that a person becomes whole only when they acknowledge all their parts, the rational, the emotional, the instinctive. A man falling in love without knowing it is beginning this very journey. His unconscious already knows. His body already feels it. But his mind still needs time to understand and accept it. What can you do? Don't force anything. Just observe. Read between the lines. Listen beyond the words. Because that's where the soul speaks its truth. In the next part, we'll explore the first clear sign, when he pulls away but can't let you go. This emotional push and pull is one of the most confusing yet revealing patterns in men who are deeply in love but emotionally blocked. He distances himself, then draws close again. He says he needs space, yet finds reasons to reach out. He sets boundaries but quietly breaks them the moment he senses you might actually walk away. This pattern isn't random, nor is it always manipulation. more often than not, is a visible echo of an invisible war, a struggle between the unconscious and the rational mind. When the man feels something deeply but hasn't yet fully realized it, a kind of inner fracture appears. A duality forms. On one side, his unconscious, the part of him connected to the anima, his emotional, intuitive self, pulls him toward you. It moves him, stirs him, makes him think of you in the quiet, in the middle of the day, in moments he can't explain. But on the other side stands the rational ego, the guardian of control. This part tries to protect him from pain, from vulnerability, from surrendering to something that feels to him like a threat to his carefully managed stability. And so the conflict plays out through contradiction. One day he's present, soft, attentive. The next, he pulls away, distant, cold, unreachable. But if you watch closely, he can't stay away for long. What if he's not playing with you? Many women, understandably, read this behavior as manipulation. And yes, some men do play games, but others are simply lost in a storm of emotions they don't yet understand. Confused, frightened, or emotionally unequipped to handle what they're feeling. Carl Jung once said, "What is not made conscious will manifest in your life as fate." In this case, what he cannot recognize as love begins to show itself in contradictory actions, not because he means to hurt you, but because he doesn't yet know why he's doing it. That's why he leaves, but doesn't let go. Why he stays silent, but still reaches out. Why he avoids commitment, but grows jealous at the thought of someone else by your side. Why is it so hard for him to stay? Because there's a fear that lives deep in many men. The fear of losing themselves in a woman. Not because they don't want to love, but because they've never been taught how to love and remain whole at the same time. So they create distance. They step back, hoping to reclaim their sense of self. But when the love is real, the unconscious doesn't play along. It refuses to cooperate with escape. It keeps pulling him back, keeps connecting him emotionally, even when his conscious mind wants to shut the bond down. Jung believed the soul's deepest desire is wholeness, and love is one of the most powerful paths to get there. When he pushes you away, it may be because he feels he's giving you more power over him than he knows how to handle. And that vulnerability frightens him. So what can you do? First, don't take it personally. More often than not, the problem isn't you. It's his relationship with his own emotions. Second, don't try to convince him. His rational mind will only resist more fiercely if it feels cornered. That's why pressure rarely works. And so, the third thing to remember is this. Observe. Notice if every act of distance is eventually followed by a return. If every silence gives way to a message, a call, a glance filled with unspoken emotion. If he seems unable to fully walk away, there may be more at play than surface attraction. There may be an active connection flowing beneath awareness, from the unconscious, where real attachment lives. This isn't about making excuses. It's about understanding, and then choosing consciously whether you're willing to be close to someone who is still learning how to love. In the next part, we explore the second sign. He protects you even when you don't ask him to. This is one of the purest, most instinctive ways unrecognized love begins to show itself. When a man is in love, even if he hasn't admitted it to himself, a deep, primal force awakens within him, the impulse to protect. It's not always dramatic or heroic. It shows up in the quiet, in the small details. He lets you know if you're running late. He offers you his jacket without hesitation. He subtly scans the room when you're together, watches your surroundings. He steps in when something feels off. He takes care, even when you think it's unnecessary. Even when he doesn't understand why he's doing it. Carl Jung spoke of archetypes, universal patterns that live within the collective unconscious. One of these is the guardian, the protector. But this archetype isn't just physical. It's not about strength in the traditional muscular sense. It's symbolic. To protect something or someone means to recognize its value, to feel on some level that it matters. When the man begins to connect with his anima, the feminine energy within his psyche, the guardian awakens alongside it, not as a conscious decision, but as a response from the soul. It's his way of saying, "You are important to me," even if he doesn't yet have the words. And if you are the one who stirs his emotional world, the one who touches the part of him he usually hides, then it's likely that a quiet instinct begins to awaken in him. The need to care for you, to protect you, to anticipate your needs. Not because you demand it, but simply because it feels natural. How does this unconscious protection show itself? It's not always dramatic. Often, it's subtle. A text message, just checking, "Did you get home safe?" Or a quiet concern, "I don't like the idea of you walking alone in that area at night." It may seem unnecessary, even exaggerated, but what you're hearing isn't logic, it's his unconscious speaking. It's a reflection of an emotional bond he hasn't yet found the words for. Other times, his protection comes in silence. He goes with you, even when he doesn't feel like it, just so you won't go alone. He changes his plans for you without calling it a sacrifice. He stays watchful if someone makes you uncomfortable and reacts emotionally if he senses you've been hurt. These actions, small, almost invisible, reveal something real. Your well-being matters to him, more than he can admit, maybe even more than he fully understands. Jungian psychology reminds us that much of our behavior flows from the parts of ourselves we haven't yet made conscious. And in love, this is especially true. Sometimes we feel an irresistible pull to protect, support, or simply be there for someone without knowing why. There's no logic to it, no explanation, just an inner knowing. When he becomes your refuge, your source of safety, emotional or physical, even without titles, promises, or declarations of love, what you're seeing is his unconscious stepping in, guiding him from a place beyond reason. And the most beautiful part, this protection doesn't come from duty. It comes from desire. That said, there's an essential distinction to be made. Protecting is not controlling. True care is not wrapped in jealousy, conditions, or restrictions. If his concern begins to come with demands, distrust, or limitations on your freedom, then it's no longer unconscious love. It's emotional control, a fear disguised as affection. Because real love doesn't confine. It doesn't shrink you. It shelters, strengthens, and supports. A man who truly loves you, even if he hasn't said it, will protect not your freedom from you, but your freedom with you, not because he believes he should, but because his soul already sees you as someone he wants to keep safe, close, and cherished. In Jung's writings, the anima is described as a bridge, the link between a man's inner emotional world and his outer rational self. When love awakens, this bridge begins to form, often quietly, often without words. But unmistakably, if you awaken that bridge within him, if his psyche begins to associate you with that archetypal feminine energy, then something profound begins to shift. He may never say the words, "I love you," but his way of showing it will be woven into his actions, into silences heavy with presence, into the quiet urgency he feels for you to be okay, even when he himself is falling apart. In the next part, we explore the third sign. He remembers things about you, even the things you've forgotten. This is one of the deepest, most overlooked signs that a man is in love without knowing it. His memory holds you, not in grand, obvious ways, but in the subtle details that pass others by. A phrase you once whispered, a story you shared in passing, how you take your coffee, your grandmother's name, a song you mentioned only once. Why? Because when the soul connects, the mind doesn't need to try. It simply remembers. In Jungian psychology, the unconscious is not only a storehouse of trauma and repressed desire, it's also the keeper of emotional bonds. And those bonds often reveal themselves through memory, but not just any memory. These are not lists of facts or data points. They are echoes of what touched the soul. So when a man remembers the smallest things about you, it's not because he has an extraordinary memory. It's because you've already passed through an invisible filter in his psyche, one that gives quiet priority to what truly matters. He doesn't need to write it down. He doesn't even need to try. Because somehow, without knowing it, you've taken root in his inner world. What kinds of details are signs of this? Pay attention. He remembers the exact date you told him something painful. He recalls the kind of flowers your mother used to grow. He brings up a joke you made weeks ago when even you forgot. He knows your preferences, how you react, what comforts you, what you need without saying a word. These small reflections are not small at all. They are proof that your presence has settled deep within him, quietly, unconsciously, undeniably. Because when the man is unknowingly in love, his memory becomes a mirror of his heart. And in that mirror, you'll find all the things you thought no one noticed, reflected back to you with unexpected clarity. He brings up something you said weeks ago as if it were spoken just yesterday. He knows the scent of your perfume, even though you've never told him. He notices subtle changes in your voice, the way you dress, the expression in your eyes. He remembers details about people or moments you mentioned only once in passing. None of this is accidental. These are signs of a man who has been emotionally present even when he seemed distracted, distant, or unreadable. His unconscious is attuned to you. And what's most striking is that he often doesn't know why he remembers all of it. He just does. Carl Jung spoke of emotions as anchors for the soul. What touches us emotionally imprints itself far deeper than what we merely think or analyze. When you stir something in him, a memory, a wound, a hope, a hidden longing, it leaves a mark. Not a superficial one, but something engraved within the emotional body. From that moment, everything connected to you begins to carry meaning for him even if he can't explain it. That's why, when a man is unknowingly in love, his emotional radar becomes highly sensitive to your presence. He begins to register everything about you, as if some part of him already knows you are part of his story. Not a coincidence, not curiosity, but soul recognition. And if one day you ask him, how do you even remember that? And he replies, I don't know. That, too, is your answer. I just remembered. And that's the point he remembers too. Pay attention. His unconscious has already done the work. He already carries you inside him. And what's most fascinating is that while his rational mind may still be wrestling with fear, pride, or uncertainty, his unconscious is quietly weaving a story with you in it. One of the clearest signs of this is when he remembers things about you even more than you remember yourself. Carl Jung once wrote, "The soul follows a different timeline than the mind. The soul feels. The soul connects. The soul remembers. The mind, on the other hand, seeks logic, control, and safety. And when these two parts are in conflict, it's easy to misread what's happening. So don't be confused if he sometimes seems distant or detached and then suddenly recalls exactly how you were feeling on that gloomy day when you barely said a word. Don't assume he doesn't miss you just because he hasn't said it and then shows up holding the book you mentioned only once in passing. Don't underestimate the memory of the heart. The soul never forgets what has truly touched its depths. Coming next, sign 4. He gets nervous around you and doesn't know why. The body is the soul's confession. Even when the mind hasn't caught up, the body speaks first. It trembles, fumbles, tightens, softens, because there are truths the body cannot hide. And if a man is in love, even if he hasn't yet admitted it, even to himself. His body will speak for him. In fact, it will say more than he ever dares to. One of the most honest signs of hidden love is this. When you're near, he changes. He gets nervous. He looks at you too much, or avoids your gaze completely. He touches his face, rubs the back of his neck, crosses and uncrosses his arms. He laughs at things that aren't particularly funny. He talks too fast or suddenly goes quiet. He fidgets. He stiffens. He stumbles over words he normally says with ease. His entire system is shaken, even if he can't explain why. Why does the body react like this? Because the body is always responding to the unconscious. Carl Jung wrote that unrecognized or repressed psychic energy inevitably manifests through the body. What we cannot say with words, we express through gestures, tension, and instinct. So when a man hasn't yet accepted that he feels something deep for you, but his soul already knows, his body becomes a battleground between two impulses, to approach and to flee. And that inner conflict reveals itself in anxiety, awkwardness, unease. Not unease with you, but with what he feels around you. Often, a man in this position doesn't understand his own reaction. He wonders why he feels strange in your presence, why he tenses up, why he becomes overly serious or suddenly too playful. He doesn't see it as love. He just knows something is off kilter, but it's not a game. It's not manipulation. It's the ego's reflexive defense against an emotion too big to name. Because real love requires vulnerability. And if he spent a lifetime protecting himself from pain, then love becomes disarming, destabilizing. That's why when you're near, it feels like an emotional shock. His heart beats faster, even if he doesn't tell you. He stumbles over his calm. He becomes more attentive or more agitated. He contradicts himself, makes clumsy remarks, exposes too much or too little. Not because he is trying to impress you, but because something in his soul is pulling him forward, while his mind is still trying to hold him back. And you can see it before he does. His tone of voice shifts around you. He subconsciously fixes his appearance when you walk in. He becomes unusually still or overly animated. He tries to fill every silence or gets lost inside it. His fingers twitch, his eyes drop, his hand reaches for his neck or his collar. It's not fear of you, it's fear of what you make him feel. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, that part of the self, where everything unaccepted, unacknowledged, and repressed is hidden. For many men, their capacity to love lies in that shadow, buried beneath years of conditioning that taught them that feeling deeply is dangerous, unmanly, or a threat to their sense of control. So when a woman awakens that forgotten part, the tender, intuitive, emotional part, he doesn't know how to react, but his body does. And no matter how carefully he tries to hide it, his body gives him away. His soul is already awake, even if he's still trying to stay asleep. That's why he gets nervous. Not out of insecurity, but because of depth. Not because he doesn't like you, but because you already matter too much. In the next part, we'll explore the sixth and final sign. He gets jealous but won't admit it. Jealousy is an unconscious reaction, a truth revealed when the ego is still in denial. Jealousy speaks before words ever do. It exposes a deep desire for emotional exclusivity. And when a man is in love, even if he doesn't fully realize it or refuses to accept it, his body, his gestures, his silences betray what his words hide. He wants you to be his. This isn't the toxic, possessive, or aggressive jealousy we fear. It's something quieter, almost childlike. An involuntary flicker of feeling that surfaces when another man pays you attention or when you turn your gaze toward someone else. It's the kind of jealousy that isn't spoken aloud, but is palpable in the space between you, a silent pulse in the air. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious reveals what the conscious mind is too afraid to face. When a man feels jealousy but won't admit it to you or even to himself, he is revealing that a part of his soul has already chosen you, even if his mind remains in denial. And in this internal struggle, the truth becomes visible. He suddenly grows cold. His expression shifts without explanation. He cracks sarcastic jokes about the situation. He pulls away, only to return again. He asks indirect questions in a casual tone, masking what lies beneath. What's happening is far from superficial. You are touching a very intimate part of his psyche. When the man refuses to accept that he is in love, he builds mental defenses to justify what he feels. I don't care. She's just a friend. She can do whatever she wants. But if you grow close to someone else, if another man makes you laugh, if someone else shows you attention, that fragile barrier begins to crack. What emerges then is the reflection of desire. He doesn't want to lose you, even if he can't fully understand why. Jung spoke of the ego creating a mask, the persona, to help us maintain control. But the soul wears no mask. The soul reacts only from truth. And the truth is this: jealousy, when it is brief, controlled, and free of manipulation, reveals a real emotional connection. How can you recognize these silent jealousies? Watch for the signs. He suddenly takes an unusual interest in your past relationships. He interrupts when you mention another man. He changes the subject when you speak admiringly of someone else. He makes passive-aggressive remarks disguised as jokes. He grows distant shortly after such moments. These are clumsy, awkward ways of saying, I don't know why, but it hurts to imagine you with someone else. If you think about it, this is one of the purest forms of unconscious love. He desires you but doesn't yet know how to claim that desire. Many men feel jealous not because they believe you belong to them, but because they fear someone else might see you before they're ready to admit that they do. The fear of losing you arises even before they truly have you. And within that fear lies the depth of his feelings, even if he cannot yet name them. Don't mistake this for control. See it instead as an emotional message. Your presence already matters to me, even if I don't know what to do with that yet. Carl Jung said, what is essential always begins in the unconscious. And if this man hasn't said, I love you, but protects you without thought, remembers everything about you, gets nervous when you're near, and becomes jealous without admitting it, then his soul has already made its choice. He is in love. His mind simply hasn't caught up with that inner truth yet. Trust what you see beyond words, because often the real I love you has already been spoken, even if it hasn't yet been heard.